Our reading today is from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 15, verses 1 through 7 from the Message translation. Listen to what the Spirit has for you today. By this time, a lot of men and women of questionable reputation were hanging around Jesus, listening intently. The Pharisees and religion scholars were not pleased, not at all pleased. They growled, "He takes in sinners and eats meals with them, treating them like old friends." Their grumbling triggered this story. Suppose one of you had 100 sheep and lost one. Wouldn't you leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after the lost one until you found it? When found, you can be sure you would put it across your shoulders, rejoicing. And when you got home, call in your friends and neighbors, saying, "Celebrate with me. I have found my lost sheep." I can guarantee that there will be more happiness in heaven over one person who turns to God and changes the way they think and act than over 99 people who have already turned to God and have God's approval. This ends our reading. May God open up these words to our hearts and to our minds.
So with apologies to Captain Spock, the needs of the one outweigh the needs of the few or the many. Question now is, who's the one? In this reading, we talk about the lost sheep and just how important that one sheep was and is. But as so many of Jesus' ministry, his preachings, he always spoke in parables. He rarely gave anybody a straight answer. He wanted them to think. How woke of him. So he never did anything literal. So in this case, the lost one is not necessarily a sinner, but one that has gone astray. They have simply lost their way in life from a spiritual standpoint. It is not a matter of sinning, since we all do it to some degree, some a little more excessive than others. But since we all do it, it's kind of a moot point in that regard. It's not even a matter of not seeking God. In fact, we don't really seek God. God seeks us. It is only when we hear the shepherd's call, that call of Christ, that we seek to learn and to hear more. It is then that Jesus, the shepherd, sets aside the other sheep, for they are not lost, and calls after the one that is. And he does not stop until the lost one is found. I'm sure that at some point in our lives, we have all felt lost, wandering without direction or guidance, looking for something but not quite knowing what it may be. Sometimes we're lost in pain, maybe from a great loss, or hopelessness and desperation, or just confusion on what to do with our lives. We're not in a seeking position, but we are susceptible to hearing God's call to all of us. We listen without knowing we are even listening. The call is there, much like the shepherd calling for the lost sheep, listening for its return call for help. The other sheep are not a worry to the shepherd, just like those who have already heard and answered Jesus' call, because he knows they're safe. They are not the only ones that God seeks to find either. There are unfortunately those who refuse to hear the call, who have left the flock, not because they're lost, but because they left thinking they could find better pastures on their own. They followed something or someone else. They believe they know better than God, and they don't need God's presence in their lives or God's protection and guidance. But in that blindness, they end up doing great damage to themselves and often to others. But God's love is persistent, stubborn, and relentless. God never abandons those who are lost, nor those who have left by willful reasons. It is not a matter either of no longer believing in God. Many of those still say they believe, but they don't follow. Their actions are in opposition to God's call. But the lost sheep, the people who have wandered off by mistake, or who have kept their heads down, staring at their cell phones, and were not looking where they were going, and in trying to return find they have lost the path, darn cell phones, these are the ones God seeks the hardest and calls for them the loudest, and often by name. Like the rest of us, they are also sinners as well, but they are sinners who strive to improve, to do better, to make amends, repent. They just lose the path in their attempt to return. They forgot to leave the breadcrumbs, or follow their GPS. Today we are also good shepherds, all of us, in our own way. Doesn't our whole city or town rally to an Amber Alert in our area? Don't we hear it on our phones and check to see if we may be able to assist in that, or we may know the person? Do we not come together as a community to seek a lost child, or even an adult who might suffer from cognitive issues? We care. These are our neighbors, our friends, our family. These are people that in one form or another we have broken bread with. In fact, the word companion comes from two words, komp, panis, with bread. It could be as wide as Sunday communion at church, or hamburgers and hot dogs at a picnic, or backyard barbecue, or a block party. If one were to become lost, we all seek for them out of concern and love. When we think of the word lost, what comes to mind? It can be physically lost, as in a forest or a desert or in a mountain. It can be emotionally lost, like after the death of a child or a spouse. It can also be lost due to financial disaster, which is becoming all too apparent today, like the loss of a job or a home burning down, or losing a fortune in the stock market. Each of these can be devastating in themselves. But imagine several or all happening at once. Well, we had the mountain fire out in Ventura not too long ago. The owner of my building, my landlady, not only lost her home, but she lost her office with all of the records of the properties that she owns. She had to go to all of us and send emails off and go, could you please send me a copy of your original rental agreements? It's that bad. And a lot of people in the Palisades fire lost homes and businesses. Same thing with Altadena. We lost churches up there. and schools. It leaves a person shattered inside when these things happen. Their faith might be challenged or damaged. It's like, God, why me? What did I do? They might feel both helpless and hopeless. But even in those times, they might still be listening to that voice calling out to them in hope, salvation. And this is where we come in. In this church, as in all MCCs and UCCs, we believe that we are, in fact, the eyes, the ears, the hands, the feet of Christ today. That's what we were charged with when Christ ascended. With the Holy Spirit within us, we became Christ on earth. I wish more people could understand that. Well, we're not just the eyes and ears and hands and feet, but we are also the voice. Even like the Good Samaritan, we see suffering and we step up to the plate and help. We might not know the person at all, but they might also be one of our own. A hurt child or a spouse or another family member. Could be a neighbor or co-worker. It might be a member of our church. It could be anyone. Whoever it is, we seek to help. We listen for the call, and we come. We call out to them just as Jesus would, listening to their call back to find them, and let them know we are there. We comfort them. We help them and to lead them back into the light, back to the comfort and safety of the fold. We listen to their cares. We feel their pain, and we help them find their answers. We strive to make them whole again, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. This does not negate those who strayed from the flock by willful reasons, though. They too are lost, only in a different way. They no longer hear the call of the shepherd. They've blocked it out. They only hear their own voices, or the voices of those who would pull them away from the shepherd and the flock. They listen to false shepherds or false prophets. It's hard or harder to challenge, or it's a harder challenge, as is to say, to find and reach them, to help them to open their hearts and listen to God's call, and to turn to seek to know more. But what in life is ever easy? These lost sheep need our help to hear, to listen, to understand, and to return. They are even more lost than those who just lost their path. I always strive to make a sermon personal. I've done that in my preaching career because it helps bring it into a relevance for today. I was told once, when you preach what you know personally, because there's more power in it. Like many, I too have had my faith impacted and felt lost because of it. I have questioned my existence in the face of severe emotional and mental distress, hard to believe, isn't it? I have felt desperate and lost in the midst of financial chaos. I have also felt the blackness of utter despair and fear of losing everything I had because of who I am. I got over it. I survived it. I did lose everything I had. But ironically, it also gave me strength. Strength to grow, strength to continue, strength to rebuild. And I did. Now, I've lost a lot of that again when Leslie died. But by then I had people around me to give me the kind of support that I truly needed. The first time, of course, I had no family to fall back on, and the family I had left me totally, completely, more than I could give. They didn't love me. I was also too proud or even ashamed to ask for help or even beg for help. I had always felt I was in control, self-reliant, but in truth, I was not. And as a result, my world had fallen apart. But I started to listen again and to hear. And I knew then I had to go and let go of my stubbornness and let others into my life to help me. It's still a struggle, as Devin can attest. I still do things I shouldn't do. I'm still stubborn. As I put it around the house, I did something stupid, like mop a floor or try to clean. I pay the price for it, but I do it anyway. But I discovered others around me were willing to help me cope, to help me heal, and to get back on the right path. Those here who know me well personally know what I'm talking about. But trust me, there is much you don't know. There are still things I have kept secret. But never be too proud to call for help, because God is out there looking for you and calling to you. God, or his agents, us mere mortals on earth, are there to help the lost and the suffering. We're there for each other. We are there to care. We are there to lead back to God. So much of the teachings of Jesus center around finding that what was once lost and then rejoicing in that recovery. We hear it with the lost sheep, also the lost coin. It's hard to imagine someone having 10 beautiful coins in a set and then losing one and then going absolutely nuts trying to find that last coin. They will tear their place apart looking for that last coin. Devin and I at home are doing the same thing over a tape measure. We had 2. We did find one. It's a smaller one. It was in Devin's car. We still haven't found the big one. And I'm going stir crazy looking for this thing. I've torn the apartment apart like 3 or 4 times now. I've looked through the garage. I've looked through my car. The only thing I haven't done is taken Devin's car and turned it upside down and emptied it out. That's his job. But I can't find it. And I don't know where it went. I assure you, when it turns up, I'm going to rejoice. But with that, we also have the story of the prodigal son as well. What was once lost is again found is always a reason to rejoice. It really is. Granted, we might not feel the need to grill a roast in celebration and then find something in, like when we find something in the closet we've searched for a month, which I've done several times, but we're still happy, you know. Might not be a steak, but it might just be a bowl of ice cream will be enough. You know, have a little celebration, a little whipped cream on top. Or a lot of whipped cream on top. Chocolate or sprinkles. But what about the 99 that Jesus says, you guys are okay? What about them while Jesus is out looking for the one? Well, this is where the needs of the one outweigh the needs of the few or the many. Jesus is sure they're safe, just as they always have been. Those 99 have never left his side, never strayed away or became lost. Again, it's like the prodigal son parable. The eldest son questions why his father goes to such lengths to throw a banquet and prepare prime meat in the celebration for his returning son, even when the younger son caused him such pain when he left. But he never did that for the elder son. When the elder son's questioning this, the father answer is simple. The elder son always had everything that was of the father's. He never wanted for anything. He had only to ask, and it was his to have. I mean, he complained about not having friends over, not having a fatted calf to have a party or things like that. The father's going, you could have had that at any time. All you had to do is open your mouth and ask. But that was because he was not lost. Oh, shut up. That's my phone. Or it's in the belly of a dinosaur. I'm not sure which. This is why we celebrate the return of what was missing. The lost coin or the child or the sheep leaves a hole in our hearts and our lives. Boy, that rings a long... Okay. That leaves a hole in our hearts and in our lives, and its recovery is very important. This is also why we never stop looking until it is found. And I will not stop looking for that tape measure. This is why God never stops looking and never gives up, even on those most difficult. This is also why we must never give up on those most difficult as well. It might take them to have a major revelation in life or to hit rock bottom to seek salvation, but we should not stop trying. It's like the alcoholic or the drug user who doesn't seek help until he or she comes to realize that they have absolutely nothing left, not even their self-respect. Or the gambler who has lost the home, the business, and the family. And if they owe money to the Russian mob, maybe both their legs. Or the cult member when they discover the lies that they have believed for so long are just that, lies. These people are lost, but they are findable and savable if we only try, and if they try. Sometimes we can only watch and wait, which is nerve-wracking, until the time comes when they start listening to the call of the shepherd and reaching out. This is why we do take seriously that we are the eyes, the mouth, the feet, and the hands of Christ on earth. We are charged to be the living personification of the Good Shepherd. We are charged with being the love of God born in humankind, and to be there to help, to guide, to comfort, and to heal the lost and the hurting, and lead them gently back to the flock. Nobody is truly lost if they want to be found. Likewise, nobody is truly alone, even when, in our pride and arrogance and stubbornness, we think we are. We all need help at times. But when we listen to the call of Jesus in God, when we listen for the sweet song calling of the caring shepherd, God finds us, lifts us up upon his or her shoulders, and takes us to safety. And I'm always moved by that song. When I am down and oh, my soul is weary, when troubles come and my heart burdens be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I'm on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. Amen.